a three-part recipe. So the first is going to get the puff pastry ready. So this is going to be a Grand Marnier and raspberry fruit tart. We're going to use a little bit of eggs. We're going to use some cream, sugar, vanilla, and Grand Marnier. And that's the entire recipe. So it's very simple. The first thing we're going to do is grab a piece of puff pastry, and the puff pastry you can find in the freezer section of your stores, in your gourmet grocer, or Rayleigh's has it, Safeway has it. You're going to pull it out of the freezer the day before you're going to use it. So you set it in the refrigerator and let it slack out. It gets soft and it gets pliable and it's easy to use. So what I've done is I've taken a piece of puff pastry and I've cut it into a circle. That circle, I'm then going to set a plate in the middle of it, just so I have a nice little guide. And in doing that, I'm going to then take a paring knife and I'm going to cut little edges around the edges of it, little slots around the edges of it. And I'm going to use the plate as a guide so that it gives us a nice clean circle when we're done with it. So we're just going to cut these little edges onto the pastry itself. I'm going to just go like so. And we're going to then lift up the plate and remove it. And now we've got the circle of dough that's got all these little slits around it. So then we're going to take an egg yolk and we're going to add a little water to it, and that's what I've done here. I've taken 1 egg yolk with a teaspoon of water, and then so you've got a little egg wash, and then I just paint the outside of the pastry with it, just like so, and paint the inside. This is going to help the little ridges stick. And then all we're going to do is take a paring knife and fold these over, like so. So if you can watch during here, I'm just taking these and folding these over. And what this is doing is this is giving me my tart shell. This is giving me my crust. So I've got these edges coming all around like so. And so we've got this nice little tart that's all ready to go. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take a sheet pan and a spatula. We're going to lift up the pastry. We're going to move it over to the sheet pan. And then we're going to egg wash it one more time. So that egg wash, we're going to take same egg yolk and water, and we're just going to paint the outsides of these ridges so that we've got a nice crust here. And again, we're looking for a nice round tart. This is an important step, this next step. What we're going to do is we're going to take a fork, and puff pastry rises. So as it rises, what happens is the butter and the flour get caught in the layers and it starts to puff. That's why it's called puff pastry. So we're going to next prick the inside level, inside part of the pastry itself, just like so that the steam can escape in this particular area, so it doesn't rise too much. Around here, we're not going to do that, so it's going to continue to puff. So we're letting the steam out of the dough by punching these holes in. And then this is going to go into a 400-degree oven for about 15 minutes. So we're going to throw it in there, and I'll be right back. Okay, so for the next part of the recipe, we're going to take 2 eggs, 2 whole eggs, and we're just going to break them into a bowl. So with the eggs themselves, we'll break those eggs into the bowl, and we're going to pull the yolks out. So I break the eggs first and then separate the yolks just by pinching my fingers together, and the yolk will come right out. So we've got a couple egg yolks here, and then we're going to take those, and we're going to put those in the bowl. We're going to take a wire whisk, and we're going to whip those up a bit. And we're going to take a teaspoon of vanilla. And then we're going to take a teaspoon or tablespoon of Grand Marnier. And we're going to add that to the yolks. All right. And then we're going to take 3 ounces of sugar and add that to the yolks. So that gives us our egg yolk, Grand Marnier, and vanilla mixture. And we're just going to whip that together. So you've got kind of this egg yolk mixture that looks slightly dark from the vanilla, and we're going to go ahead and mix that together, get all the yolks incorporated. Then we're going to take a 1.5 cups of cream, and we're going to take that cream and we're going to put it on the stove to heat. So we're going to turn that cream on right here, and we're going to put that on the stove. And what's going to happen is as the cream starts to come up to a simmer, we're going to pour it into the yolks. We're going to pour it in slowly because we want to temper those yolks. So we don't want to scramble the eggs. So we add the warm cream to the yolks, and then we add it all back into the pan. And what we're making is a custard, essentially. So we're making a vanilla Grand Marnier custard that's going to go in the bottom of our tart. So we've got the yolks here. The cream is set on the stove to heat here. And as it comes up to a simmer, we're going to just pour it in slowly into our bowl. So we're adding the cream slowly to the egg yolks and the sugar and the Marnier, so we don't scramble the eggs. And so we're going to slowly add that cream in. And so the temperature of the yolks come up slowly. And then once we've got all of that cream into the yolks, we're going to put it back into the pot, because now it's tempered. And we're going to return the pot to the stove. Now this is the important part. What you want to do is you want to turn it on medium. And you want to slowly keep the custard moving. You don't want it to cook too fast, because you'll scramble the eggs again. So you just want to let the cream slowly kind of simmer with the egg yolks in it, and it's going to thicken up very quickly. So as this starts to cook and thicken up, we're going to then pull it off the stove and we're going to whip air into it, because the air that we whip into it will cool the custard. So once it starts to get that thick texture and consistency, that's when we're going to pull it from the stove. So it does take about 3 or 4 minutes of just solid whisking here. You don't want to go too fast, you just want to move it around so you're not burning it on the bottom. So we're going to give that a few minutes, and once that custard's thickened, we're going to show you what that looks like. So it's going to be a minute or two here, and we'll be right back. What we're doing now is we're going to go ahead and take this custard that we've made, and you can see it's thickened up. It's kind of like a thick pancake batter now. So what we're going to do is we pulled the tart shell out of the oven. We've let it cool. We're now going to just ladle on the custard into the tart shell itself, so that it sets in the bottom of the custard. It sets in the bottom of the tart shell, and then we're going to put this in the refrigerator. So this is going to go in the refrigerator for about 10 minutes. It'll thicken up just enough to where we'll then start to put the berries on. So then we just go ahead and set our berries around in a circle. And these berries are going to be the fruit part of our tart. And we're going to use some blackberries. We can use whatever fruit is your favorite. You can use pears, peaches. But this time of year, I think the berries are kind of nice because of the color. And it's very Christmassy, the red. So we're going to go ahead and fill in the berries here on the tart itself. And we're going to throw a few blackberries in here for fun, just because we like the color differentiation. So we're going to stick some blackberries here. So we've got this nice little berry tart. And then this, like I said, goes in the refrigerator. I took a little bit of raspberry jelly and I heated it up. And that raspberry jelly itself, what we're going to do with that is we're just going to paint the berries, because it'll make them shine. So we just take a little raspberry jelly and melt it in a pan, and we paint the berries so they shine. This is what they do with the fruit tarts you buy in stores that make all the berries look so we just made it shine a little bit. Following with that, we're going to take a little bit of powdered sugar, and we're just going to tap the powdered sugar out around the tart, so we get a little powdered sugary tart loveliness going.